It's so easy to be like, okay, it's my first year. And for 3 months, I've been doing, Zillow Flex, social media, and I'm having success. But everyone in my office is also doing door knocking, they're doing farming and they're doing these other things. And it's so easy to be distracted. So I think just identifying, like, as a newer agent, what are your lead sources and what is giving you the results that you want, and just kind of doubling down on that.
Welcome to the Raquel Show. This show is for entrepreneurs who want to play bigger in business and in life. And today I have a very special guest that I first heard about from his business mentor and got to meet him at the first company retreat. The other day I was scrolling around some photos and came across one of those that were taken that day. And it was interesting to see that photo, because you can see us all gathered around this table and Ed just intently listening and paying attention. Do you remember that?
I do. Yes. That was that big table in Temecula. And I was just listening and taking in everything you had to say. And I think in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get into this woman's roster? I do.
So here's the thing. You immediately stood out, right? Your personality, your energy. And I think I told you is that you were going to make it in this business. And I have met thousands of agents, especially brand new agents and realtors, right? And you're one person that I knew without a shadow of a doubt had the it factor from the very beginning. You're willing to do whatever it took. I could just see it in your demeanor. And you guys all who is listening to the show right now, you guys are going to be impressed by the person that you're about to listen to. He just crossed over his 1 year in selling real estate and was awarded the top 10 of all side agents. And there's 6,000 agents at that company, or over 6,000. And we know he's got words of wisdom. And we know that that accomplishment is not a walk in the park. And I'm excited for him to share his story, to share it from a different perspective. I think he is one of our first agents that's probably less than 2 years in the business that we've ever interviewed on the show. And I think whether you're a new agent or a newer entrepreneur, he's got something that he's willing to share on the show. And I cannot wait. And I'm honored to have you. Welcome to the show, Ed Barreto.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited. Raquel, you're awesome. And thank you for that introduction. So yeah, I'm super excited to have this conversation with you, and let's do it.
So first I want to ask about this award is, did you know you were getting, that's like people aspire to have that stage, right? At every single company, it doesn't matter which brokerage you're with. It's like, one day I want to be there, and you probably inspired a lot of people that were watching you walk through that stage. Did you know you were getting that award?
No, not specifically that award. It's so funny, the story around that, right? So I was nominated to be a speaker by one of Side's business managers. So I knew I was going to talk on being like a reigning rookie, right? And so the next day I got an email from Side saying, hey, you have to meet at this stage because you're going to get what's called like a spotlight award. And then when I thought about it, I was like, oh, maybe it has something to do with being a rookie, because it's my first year. My first full year in the business was 2022. I don't know. It wasn't even rookie of the year. Maybe it had something to do around that. And then when I went there to the stage, there was 2 sessions. And then the first session was already done. That's when Quinet won the Triple Crown. Shout out to Quinet. So proud to be part of that team. And then they called out the rookies of the year. There was like 3. And I was like, oh, it's not rookie of the year. So I wonder what it is. So there was another award session at 1:00. And then I knew I was getting an award, but I didn't know what it was for. And I was literally shocked when they called out top 10 side agents for most units sold. I know I did a lot last year, but I was just shocked to be in the top 10, considering how many agents that network is. So I was just super excited and super happy. And it made me realize it's like, wow, I was shooting for rookie of the year, and it's like first year, top 10 out of 6,000. I was like, had goosebumps. And it was just so nice to have the whole team there.
What was going through your mind?
Just excitement. In addition to the shock, I think, like a lot of excitement. And like in the moment that I was getting the award, I just reflected back on 2022 and how I'm so grateful for doing the jump in real estate. And when they say, right, it's like identify your mentors and your coaches early. Like in that moment, I was really grateful that it's like, wow, I'm really glad that if there's one thing that I did right, it's to take mentorship and coaching and doing masterminds and participating in all of these things. I was really grateful that I did that because that really played an integral role in getting that award. Because without all of that, I probably wouldn't have been able to do that much in 2022.
First of all, congratulations. And like I said, it is not easy to get that type of award and to be at the top of your company, to be the top at one of the top in the industry, right? Your first year, you had massive production. How many units was it? Or did you close last year?
It ended up being 51. Yeah, 51 units.
This guy had a goal of 30 for those that are listening or watching on YouTube. He had a goal of 30. And if you guys have followed him on social, and we'll probably ask him later, his social handle is like he had this whole thing, and to surpass it to 51, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
What do you think as you look back at your year, your first year in the business? If you could boil it down to three things, what do you think made you do that type of production?
You know what I realized, Raquel, and this is what I love about, the times that we talk and, in these masterminds is number one is obviously like hard work, right? And then number two, I think just really dialing in on the systems. And really, like when somebody gives you advice in terms of like, hey, this is what it took for me to be successful in real estate. And I'm showing you the tools, the systems and the processes that you should, incorporate in your business. It's so easy to say like, oh yeah, that's great. I'm so inspired. I love it. And then you forget about it like the next day or 1 week later. But I think it's really different when you take action. I think in one of the Play Bigger events, there was this talk about there's a big difference with thinking bigger and playing bigger. And it's all about the action that you take. And I think another thing is mindset. Like if you really believe in your heart that you're going to set a goal for doing this much in 1 year, and you do everything that it takes to kind of make that happen, I think that's really a big component. Like I quote it on Instagram all of the time. Like ever since I started sales many, many years ago, my favorite quote has always been like, whatever the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve, because I believe that that's so, so true. But to summarize, I think just dialing down on your systems and just having the right mindset and attitude when you go into every single day.
Yeah. As I look back, first of all, when I saw that, I had goosebumps when I saw that on social, because I look back even through our conversations of every time you took action, whether it was a pipeline, whether it was an open house, whether it was the Tiffany boxes, right? Like you completely just took action that you just don't see very often. It's like, oh, great idea. Maybe I'll think about it, but you actually really did play bigger, which I thought was really cool. So speaking of advice, if you were to give advice to somebody brand new today, or somebody that's probably not hitting their goals, we just started 2023, people are kind of in some people are in a slump, right? What advice would you give to that newer agent or to that person that just needs to get restarted again?
Yeah. I think this is actually one of the questions that they brought up in the Rating Rookies panel. And I'll share that at Quinet, we call it like the shiny ball syndrome, right? I think it's so important to early on, like identify what your strengths are. And I think as a new agent, it's so important to have a period of like exploration, meaning like, hey, everybody at my office is doing open house and the top agents are having success. So I'm going to, try that, right? But it's really important to identify like which systems and lead sources are working out for you and kind of go with what you're strong at. My advice to a new agent, it's so easy to be like, okay, it's my first year. And for 3 months, I've been doing, Zillow Flex, social media and open house, and I'm having success. And it's so easy to like divert from that and say, oh, but everyone in my office is also doing door knocking, they're doing farming and they're doing these other things. And it's so easy to be distracted. So I think just identifying like as a newer agent, like what are your lead sources and what is giving you the results that you want, and just kind of doubling down on that.
So good. So in your first year as a top agent, I'm not sure when the cutoff is, but I really do think that you should probably apply for Rookie of the Year, by the way, if there is a cutoff, if there's still applications, because I think whether it's your MLS board or whether it's NAR, I think that would be really cool. But in your first year, what were some of the lessons that you had learned?
A lot. I think that one of the biggest lessons that I learned is time management is so important. And I think the second thing that I started to incorporate is I think sticking true to your morning rituals is really important. I think back at my, previous role from 2016 to 2020, what I did in the morning was very, very consistent. And I started doing that again in 2022, and it's an absolute game changer. But I think a lesson that I learned is sticking true to your systems and making sure that, your morning rituals are in line.
Yeah. So that you can have that focus. I know you're somebody that loves to also play bigger on a whole different level, even with all of your travels. By the way, how many travels did you guys do? 51 deals. And how many times did you travel last year?
Yeah. And this is what I love. I love the community that we have at Play Bigger and the masterminds and whatnot, just because we play bigger in the sense of work, but we also play bigger in our personal lives. It's just shocking to me that I think I went to Hawaii 4 times last year. And then I did
Maldives. I know you went there.
Yeah. And then I traveled to the Philippines, Singapore, Maldives. And I think having that balance, I think there's this perception that in order to be a successful real estate, you have to stay put, you can't travel because what's going to happen to your clients. But I think one thing I learned from you is having that balance and being able to, it's just shocking, who does 51 transactions and does that many trips, right? But it actually helps, taking those breaks actually helps with you achieving those big goals, because it allows you to reset and it allows you to continue, playing big throughout the entire year.
And I think one thing it does for those that are listening, when you do plan those vacation, it's almost like you're rushing right before you get on that plane, especially if you're going to have no cell phone service, right? I'm going to get all my deals in before I leave, right? To go to the Philippines, or not working on the plane until I'm landed. Right?
Yeah. Did you know, Raquel, that 3 of my escrows happened while I was at the airport? Last year, 3 or 4. Yeah. Literally one, I was in the middle of a counter flying to Hawaii. And I was like, this offer needs to be accepted. And we ratified literally 30 seconds before the plane took off. So you're absolutely right.
There's this rush of deadline and urgency all of a sudden when you're about to go on a trip. Exactly. So I always tell my top producers, go plan more trips and go travel, right? And you said it earlier, is one of the things that I do see with agents today is that they're so hesitant to leave because they're afraid that their business is going to fall apart. How are you able to do that, even just navigating through being a new agent? Is it because you just didn't know any better? Or it was hey, I think I put systems in place that I'm still going to be able to enjoy, and this is just part of my lifestyle that I want to be able to do this?
Yeah. I think in the earlier part of the year, it's nice because you could identify what kind of trip you're going to take, right? There are vacations where I call it a 50-50, where 50% of the time I'm going to be working, and then 50% of the time it's going to be leisure, right? And then all of the things that need to happen on the field, I would just kind of lean on the team if there's ever a client who reaches out and then, they need help showing a home, or if there's a listing and inspections have to be met and whatnot, I could rely on my team with that. And then there are the vacations where you could literally shut off. The one that I took when I went to the Philippines, Maldives, and Singapore, I call that the 595. I came up with this interesting term where I only had to work actually during that 2 weeks, I only had to work 5 hours. And I think that's pretty awesome, because I really got to enjoy that vacation. And I think and this is why masterminds for me are important, because you learn these things, right? It's if you're going to go on a trip, who are you going to lean on to make sure that you can enjoy your quality time with your family and friends and your business is still going to run? So I think towards the second half of last year, now that we have a team in place, there's a lot more people to lean on.
Oh, so good. And I think for those that are afraid and that are listening, you just have to decide. I think it was a decision you made of how you were going to run your business. And if anything, if it does fall apart, you're going to learn from it. Yeah. You're going to learn how to build it even stronger. And you just got to decide, is it going to be a working vacation? Am I only going to work 5 hours in the next 2 weeks? right? When I travel to all these things. So you're really big on goals. And we can see that even just in this interview. What are you doing differently this year? What's your goals?
Yeah. So this year, Kevin and I actually recently partnered. So for the first, I'd say 11 months of 2022, I was a solo agent. And then Kevin and I partnered up. So we formed Cruz and Barreto Group through the awesome team at Kinetic Real Estate. And now I'm actually leading a team of 7 agents. And I think now more than ever, systems are so important. So, there's a lot of growing pains with starting a team. But I'm so glad and so grateful for the support that I have. Like Kevin has been such an amazing business partner. I've learned a lot from him and combined. So this year we have a goal with the market shifting and whatnot. Like that's not an excuse. We're still going to do what we need to do. That's how winners do it. And that's how they think. So we have a goal of helping 100, families by the first 9 months of the year with us and the agents that we have. It's a little different, like the rhythm as a solo agent and the rhythm as a team leader is different. But I think if the mindset is there, it could definitely be done and it can be accomplished.
Well, that right there is something that I definitely want to talk about. First of all, you were a solo agent last year. Now in your second year, most people never even start teams in our industry. You're already starting partnering with people and you obviously have an abundance mindset. One of the things that I see people like that hold them back from starting a team or going bigger is because of the scarcity issue of like, how do I split my leads? I already did 51 deals. So going into the team mindset, what did you have to change in your thinking for you to even get to the level of like, I want to partner with Kevin and even be open to partnership and then even build a team and be responsible for a few people?
Yeah, absolutely. It was really the perfect partnership, in my opinion, when we thought about it, because when we really sat down and analyzed like what our skill sets were, Kevin has like a lot of years, in the business. I believe he started in residential real estate in 2016, and he's really, really good with listings. And then myself, actually a majority, as it would be for a first year agent, I would say that 75 to 80% of my transactions out of that 51 were buyers. So we thought that it was definitely, the perfect combo to team up. And it was nice because there's always talk about like vision and alignment and the mission of the team. We really, we had that meeting, remember Raquel, in terms of like setting what the vision was and the mission statement and the roles of the team. And it sounded like such a big hurdle that needed to be overcome at the time. But I'm just glad that our vision, is very aligned in like what we stand for and what we believe in. And I think it makes it easier when it comes to leading a team, especially when it comes to accountability, setting expectations, doing meetings 3 times a week just to make sure that, we're looking into pipeline, like what are we going to do and who are we going to get into contract this week or whatnot.
What has surprised you so far about being a team leader or leading a team?
A lot.
This is a juicy stuff.
I think with starting a team, I imagine it like you're building a runway. And I think from November to now, I think we've grown a lot and it's still something that we're doing. Kevin and I, as team leaders for Cruz and Barreto Group, have had many like countless nights, like meeting up on Zoom, just kind of like doing what it takes and setting up these systems, for the team and making sure that the people that we lead are successful. But you can't really veer away from culture. And I do believe that that's something that we have, but I think we're still in the process of building this runway. And I know that when this runway is like built and done, we're just gonna, fly and continue to grow. It's been a great start, so far, but so far we've been implementing like lead systems, designing SOPs, which is I've done it before, but I think in residential real estate, it's a little bit different, setting expectations and how do we inspect what our expectations are.
Yeah, so good. See, I think a lot of times why people are afraid to even start teams is they have to be responsible. And then you really think like, how can I make this predictable, this result predictable? Because it's one thing for Ed to do it because he's got the grit, he's got the self-motivation. But you start to realize, I don't know if you've realized this yet, or you are blessed with amazing people, is not everybody has the same grit as you. Yeah. Not everybody is as self-motivated. And what you think is hard work is a totally different definition for somebody else on your team.
Absolutely. I'm really blessed because I will say that a lot of the members of our team are very, very hardworking, and they will do whatever it takes. But I think, for all the new up and coming, team leaders, right? I'm going through this phase of like just delegating, where it's like I had this rhythm when I was a solo agent where I took everything from start to finish, like from prospecting to showing homes to reviewing disclosures to offer strategy, getting the offer accepted to escrow. And now we're blessed with these resources, right? So we have an escrow manager, we have a showing agent, we have someone who's going to take over once the deal is closed, an ISA who could help prospect. But I think, delegating is a big thing, and that's something like as a newer team leader that I'm continuing to learn and grow on. But I think a growing pain for me is like there's still periods where I'm like, I just want to do everything like on my own. It's like, oh, like I want it done this way, so I'm just going to do it. You know what I mean? But I think what I've learned is like sometimes it's really important that you give associates and new agents permission to fail. And I think that's the message that we've had. It's like, hey, just do it. If you mess it up, it's okay. We want you to mess it up the first couple of times, and then let's just regroup and kind of, and talk about it so that way you could get better the next time around.
You hit on such a really good point, especially for team leaders that are listening or anybody that wants to run a company, is you got to give people the option to fail. Because one of the things as high Ds or as people that have been so in charge of their own surroundings and is just stronger at like, I could do it myself, it'll be a lot quicker than me taking the time to teach, is when we take that over, we actually rob the other person of an opportunity to grow. So I love that you said that. And I'm curious, where does your hunger and your drive come from?
A lot of it has to do with my family, right? And the people that I love, like my partner and whatnot. I just think that my story is really interesting. Like I came here to the US when I was, 5 years old. I was raised by immigrant parents. So I literally saw firsthand like what hard work meant. I think maybe I'm an outlier because like I started working when I was like 12 years old. I was literally like, I think I started sales at 12 years old. I learned the BOGO pitch. BOGO means buy one, get one pitch at the San Jose flea market when I was 12 years old. I literally remember back then it was like, you buy one cell phone case for $7, but if you buy two, you get it for 11. And I've been in sales, since then. So, my story is really interesting, like really, really came from humble beginnings. And I really look back at that. It was my dad and I who came here first in 96. And then my mom followed and my siblings followed years later. So I really saw how hard my dad worked, like making $6.75 an hour, working, 2 jobs just to kind of make ends meet. But yeah, a lot of it came with that and being able to like go to college, get my master's and all of that. So really humbled by those experiences.
Amazing. Oh, well, first of all, BOGO. And
Yeah.
I did not even know that San Jose flea market. Wow. That's amazing. But I think you learn the skills, right, to get you to where you're at today, especially just having your background. What do you think separates the average agents you've come across already in your first year? You got to go to different conferences, different events. What do you think separates agents from like average to great?
I think it's mindset, honestly. I think a lot of the events that we go to, they're phenomenal. They're awesome. We learn a lot. But I think what separates the good to the great is the person who leaves the event and they forget everything after day 2. Like they're so inspired when they're there, right? And then like they come back from the conference, they're so pumped, they take action for 2 days and then it's done. And then I think the great and phenomenal agents, they don't have to take 100 things from the conference or the event. I always advise it's like, be intentional when you go to like masterminds, events and conferences, you're paying for it, right? You want to get something good out of it. Like I always try to take away like 3 things for every event that I attend and just to take action once the event is done. So I think like mindset has a lot to do with it. I think mindset will beat skill all day long because, mindset will help you beat that learning curve or make that learning curve even faster.
Oh my gosh. So I know like there's just so much gold. And I know some of you guys are going to rewind this episode. I know every day is not always easy for especially a brand new agent, 51 deals, right? Now you're building a team. How did you deal with days where it was so tough? Or was there even a day in your first year that you wanted to quit? Because we just talked about mindset.
Yeah, there were many. And I think that at the end of the day, you have to remind yourself of your core and why you're doing like what you're doing. Prior to residential real estate, I was actually, I was in vacation ownership or timeshare sales with Wyndham Destinations or Travel and Leisure. They were acquired by Wyndham. I loved the team there and I loved it. I did love what I do. And then in 2020, when the pandemic hit, I was in the period of exploring. So I'm kind of glad I took the leap of faith of, going into residential real estate and pursuing that. It was longer working hours, right? But I think that it's not a permanent thing. I think there have been weeks in real estate where I pulled more than 80 hours a week, right? To get to those 51 transactions. But not every week is like that. There's going to be weeks where you're working 30 or 40. There's going to be weeks where you're doing more. But at the end of the day, like you have to really be loving what you're doing. But yeah, I've had days where I'm like, oh, like I could just go back to doing what I was doing. But at the end of the day, like I'm doing this for the clients that I'm servicing. And, it's a good industry to be in, right? We're changing lives. Like if you're a skilled sales professional, real estate is where it's at because of the purchase price. And, we're blessed, we're in California, right? So the purchase price is a little bit higher here and you're impacting people's lives, so just going back to like why you're doing what you're doing.
One of the things that you said is so key, and I don't think it gets said enough. And I think it's not only in real estate, but in any entrepreneur like role, or when you just start to really go on your entrepreneurship journey, is you said there were weeks that you worked 80 hours. That's not a bad thing. And I think a lot of people don't say that enough. A lot of people that start businesses don't work that 8 hours. They don't work an 8 to 5, but the payoff, like you said, there's no better industry to be in when it comes to sales than real estate because of price points.
Yeah.
You can earn your flexibility later, but there are going to be moments where you do have to pound the pavement and you have to work hard, whether it's for a client or to save a deal. So
Yeah.
we sometimes forget that. What's next, Fred? What are you most excited about?
I'm excited for the year ahead. I've always had themes. Like I posted about it. Like 2019 was like peak. That was like the peak of my career. 2020 was like explore. I was in the period of like, exploring. 2022 was like comeback is what I called it. I think 2021 was pivot, right? Because I was pivoting a lot and then went into residential real estate late 2021. 2023 for me is going to be the year of scale because this is the year that Kevin and I really partner up and grow Cruz and Barreto Group with Kinetic. So that's what's next. We want to do 100 transactions, and as you always say, front load the goals. Oh my gosh, that's one thing, the game changer in 2022. Front load your goals. Oh my gosh, I'll forget that. So that's the goal this year, and 100 transactions, and just continuing to grow both personally and professionally as well.
Where can people connect with you?
Sure. My Instagram handle, that's the best way, is at ebarreto, EBARRETO _25.
And we will definitely put it in the show notes. And there's always one question that I ask every single person that comes on our show is, what does Ed do to play bigger in business and in life?
It's all about balance, sticking true to your morning rituals and not going away from why you're doing what you're doing. And just, continuing to believe in yourself and having that positive mindset, and whatever your mind can conceive and believe it, I promise you it'll achieve.
Oh my gosh. It has been so awesome having you on the show. I am so proud of your journey and what I've been able to see, have front row seats is what I like to tell everybody, to see where you started to what you accomplished. And I know sky's the limit for you because of your mindset, because of the action that you take. And I cannot wait to keep playing bigger with you, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you, Raquel.